Hi, BC family, and welcome to your midweek devotion. This week, I want to talk and focus on our perspective and the after that. So, it's easy to focus on what's wrong in our lives, right? I teach in school, and it's easy when you get together for teacher data meetings to focus on the students that didn't pass, that aren't growing, and your whole mind and your meeting is consumed with these kids. But in perspective, it's normally about 2 to 4 kids. And there's another 20, 25 kids that have been doing amazing. But our brains and our minds were wired to just focus on that negative, right? Same as, you could say, oh my gosh, my class is so difficult. I have the worst class ever. And you go home and you just complain about your class and you complain about your class and you complain about your class. But again, in perspective, it's probably 1 to 2 kids that are so difficult. But to be fair, those 1 to 2 hard kids, they can take up all your energy, all your time, right? They are demanding and always present. And it made me start to think about how that's like our problems in life, right? Whether it's health or financial or family or work, it's demanding and always present. So we could have all these great things happening in our lives, but this one giant problem is what consumes our focus, consumes our time, consumes our words and our energy. And if we're not careful, then we begin to lose sight of all the good things that God's done for us. We begin to take for granted our family and our friends and opportunities that He's blessed us with. Why? Because we're so fixated on the problems. It's all about keeping things in perspective. A good example is business may be slow, but it's the wrong perspective to think I'm never going to make it. The right perspective to think is business may be slow, but my God will supply all my needs according to His riches and glory, right? It's replacing our problems with God's promises. We need to have a foundation of a grateful spirit. Joel Osteen once said, I've learned that seeds of discouragement cannot take root in a grateful heart. If you are unhappy today and you've lost your enthusiasm, the quickest way to turn that around is to be more grateful. Instead of looking at what you don't have, thank God for what you do have. Instead of complaining about what's wrong, thank God for what's right. I loved that part, that seeds of discouragement cannot take root in a grateful heart. It's, again, all a matter of perspective. We've been talking in my class about having an attitude of gratitude, and talking to kids about perspective, and we gave the example of you might hate your shoes and complain about your shoes and I don't get the shoes I want, blah, 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 until you meet someone with no feet, right? And then suddenly you're super grateful for your shoes. And we've talked a lot about that there's always someone out there that would love to be where you are. So every time complaining escapes your mouth, remember that. If you're complaining about where you are, then you're not going to get to where you want to be. And if you're complaining about what you have, then I believe God's not going to increase you with more. And I think it was Joel Osteen who coined this saying. He said, if you complain, you remain, but if you praise, you'll be raised. And I really, really liked that perspective. Because when you praise God and thank Him and put the promise before the problem, then you begin to move up and out of where you're at, right? Or of the problem. But when you make the problem center and you complain about it and wallow in your emotions, then you remain where you're at. Because you're either looking down and at the problem or up and out at the promises of God. And if you're looking up and out, then you can move forward, right? I tell kids all the time, just because you might not get the team you wanted to or the spot you wanted to or the position you want to, coaches look at how you react when you don't get what you want, right? That's something that they focus on and they look at what you don't get. How do you react to that? Are you still grateful about where you're at and you're still going to give it your all? Or are you going to sit there and gripe and complain and choose not to play your best because you didn't get what you wanted and you deserve better? So it's all a matter of perspective. Psalm 66:1 says, make a joyful shout to God, all the earth. Sing out the honor of His name. Make His praise glorious. Say to God, how awesome are your works. Through the greatness of your power, your enemies shall submit themselves to you. All the earth will worship you and praise you. They will sing praises to your name. So today I want to encourage you to choose to have an attitude of gratitude. Choose to let go of complaining and comparing and instead choose to focus on your blessings. Work on keeping the right perspective, to always look ahead, up and out, so you can move forward into the good life that God has prepared for you. Now, some of you might be thinking, how do I do that when the pain and the problem is so demanding and always present? So you lift up your voice in praise. It's thanking God for where he is taking you. Fill your home with thankfulness, laughter. Change the atmosphere by putting those bouncers in front of your mind. We've talked about that before. Don't let the ugly thoughts in. Nope, not that thought. Not going to take that thought. Not going to take that thought. We're going to meditate on the promises and make him louder and more present than our problem. Philippians 4:8 shows us how to do that. It says, think on these things that are true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, whatever is commendable. If there's anything of excellence or worthy of praise, think on those things. And then God's peace will be with you. It's all about meditating on the goodness of God. That will help you have the right perspective and release your faith. And once that faith is released, God's power is activated and he could show up and show off in your life. I want to leave you this week with one last amazing story and example. And I want to give you the example of Job. When you think about Job, just said his name, what comes to mind? Pain, suffering. Man, you hear people, you just bring up Job. They're like, oh, Job, poor Job. And that's like us. Focusing on the bad, the horrible, and the mundane. Oh, I wish I could have. And it's so overwhelming. But Job's demise and his downfall was just a tiny blip in his life, right? But like us, Job also focused on the problem. He was like, this is what he said in Job. He said, I will never again experience pleasure. I have been assigned to long, weary nights of misery. What's happening? Job was stuck complaining, and therefore he was remaining in this horrible state, right? But then his friend came over, and in Job 8:21, his friend said, behold, God will not reject a person of integrity, nor will he help evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with joyful shouting. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the tent of the wicked will no longer exist. I love how his friend helped Job shift his perspective. He said, hey, this is just a moment. God will fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with joyful shouting. Yes, Job, it looks bad, but it's not permanent. You're walking through this, through the valley. Focus on how good God is. And that's us too. So I'm telling you that God will fill your mouth with laughter, your lips with joyful shouting. Breakthroughs are coming. Healing is coming. Restoration is coming. New beginnings are coming. Job began to shift his perspective and began to focus on the goodness of God. Now watch this last part. This is seen in Job 42. The Lord also restored the fortunes of Job when he prayed for his friend, and the Lord increased double all that Job had. And the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginnings. And he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camel, 1,000 yoke of oxen, 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. In all the land, no women were found as beautiful as his daughters. And their father gave them inheritance among their brothers. And after this, Job lived 140 years and saw his sons and his grandsons for generations. And Job died an old man full of days. Did you hear that part? After that, Job lived 140 years. After what? After that season. See, everyone focuses on poor Job and, oh man, Job's life sucked. But the truth was, it was just a season in his life. He was blessed and highly favored. So when I think about Job, I think I want to be like Job, a life filled with overcoming, restoration, blessed beyond measure, a loving, long, full, good life. That's Job's story. It said, and Job died an old man full of days. Full of days means blessed beyond measure, more than he could ask or think. So this week, don't focus on the bad and the hard and the woe is me. Instead, don't give up. Rise up with a spirit of faith, an attitude of expectation, an attitude of gratitude, praising God and thanking him for breakthrough in this season. Have a great week and happy Thanksgiving.